The terrifying truth behind the missing of my son. Hello, my story may make you feel disturbed, but the truth is I lived with this nightmare for nearly a year. My son went missing after a trip, and through maternal instinct, I found him and discovered a secret that had been hidden for so long. My name is Karen, and I'm 50 years old. I'm a single mom living in a small town with my son Barry, whom I treasure a lot. He's a well-mannered young man and doesn't have a lot of friends. He attended a well-known university as a college student, and he's my biggest pride. At the end of his second year, Barry abruptly informed me that he was taking a gap year to learn and try out new things that he had always wanted to do before returning to college. I always supported every decision he made. Kelvin is Barry's best mate. Kelvin lived in the suburbs. Barry told me that he was going to Kelvin's house for a week to refresh before starting his gap year. After the 1-week trip, I received a text message in which my son said that he would continue his journey to a coast near Barry's house and return home in 2 weeks. It was good for him because he must be drained from his ongoing studies at university. Whatever makes you happy, my sweetheart, I will support you. I texted him back. Throughout that time, Barry kept sending me pictures and updates on his travels. The boy had that habit since he was a small child because he always wanted to reassure me. Regardless of how happy I was, I still missed Barry and hoped he would return soon. However, after the ride, Barry proceeded to text me, telling me that he had been hired as an intern at a large organization. It would be an excellent opportunity to gain experience and develop the skills he wished to learn this year. Barry informed me that the business was based in another state and that he had been offered the job on short notice. He didn't want to give up that chance, so he would go to the company immediately after the trip ended and vowed to return on my birthday next month. Barry didn't forget to tell me that he wanted to keep things private as part of his work so that he couldn't use his phone as much, so we'd connect through Facebook. If you've seen a green dot on my account, it means I'm online and fine. After that, he said his goodbyes and began packing for his journey. Barry kept showing his new company to me. While I missed him terribly, I was glad that Barry had found a job that made him happy every day and was beneficial to his future. During that time, I continued to text him via Facebook. Since I recalled him saying that I couldn't call him because of his job's privacy, I texted him instead. I was looking forward to my birthday so I could see my son as he had promised. But how weird it was that instead of Barry showing up on my birthday, I received a gift with a silk scarf inside and a dried fruit box, the specialty from where Barry was working. There was a postcard inside. What? Was he serious? He said he'd return, and he knew how much I missed him. Since I valued Barry's decision, I agreed that he wouldn't be home for an extended time. But this time, I couldn't take it anymore. I was furious. I dismissed everything he had said before and called him to scold him. Oh no, I got even more enraged because Barry repeatedly hung up on me and said that he was meeting with his clients. Barry called me back a long time later, saying he was fine and apologizing for not making it home for my birthday. After that, he hung up the phone and said he was busy. Barry genuinely irritated me. I texted him that if he didn't call me back, I'd come to his workplace. What a letdown. The glorious fancy world made him forget about me and left me alone on my birthday. However, something tugged at my mind. I started doubting the fact that Barry was away for work. What if he lied to me to get away from home? Or maybe he was joining some mobs. Oh my goodness, I needed to locate him. I kept calling him for days after that, and I began to worry. I forced him to give me another picture of where he lived. He responded with a portrait shot, and behind him was a fancy office. I felt a little better, but I couldn't stop worrying. But one time, when I was browsing through Barry's Facebook account, I was shocked to find a photo of Barry with the same pose, expression, and the same clothes he wore in the last picture he sent me. The only difference was the background. When I compared them, they were identical, and the background was Photoshop. What was happening? Maybe my intuition was correct? Why was Barry compelled to lie? I couldn't live in worry and anxiety any longer, so I decided to visit the company at the address he had given me previously. When I arrived, I asked everyone in the tower, but no one knew who Barry was. The company's manager also confirmed that they had not had any recruiting plan in place for nearly a year. I called Barry, but I was unable to contact him. Barry texted me on Facebook that he had just transferred to another company and asked me to go home. This was not how my son would behave. I had a motherly suspicion that my son had gotten himself into trouble. I tracked down Kelvin, Barry's best friend, on Facebook and inquired about the whereabouts of my son. I assumed that he would have information about him, or maybe they were staying together. Kelvin insisted he hadn't seen Barry in a long time, but when I asked if he had spoken to Barry recently, he told me the exact same thing Barry had previously lied to me about, the details of the trip and the company Barry worked for. What now? Kelvin lied to me as well? I was astounded to learn that it was all a lie and that I was a helpless puppet. So where in the world was Barry? Was Kelvin and even his family involved in this? My anxiety grew. What if Kelvin's family murdered my son? I reported my son missing to the police, but they were having a more severe case, so they had to prioritize that case and would help me as soon as possible. Filled with terror and a smidgen of hope, I didn't have any other choice but to find my own way to see my son. I couldn't contact Kelvin since then. Barry's account was still under someone's thumb, and he texted me several times to calm me down. To confirm who was messaging me, I asked him about my and my son's childhood memories, even my hobbies, but all the answers were wrong. The hacker also uploaded a picture to update Barry's status, but it was an old photo I took for him last year. The journey to find Barry had only just begun, and there were several obstacles ahead of me. Let us wait until next time to find out the terrifying truth behind my son's disappearance.